Hey, good morning, everybody. It's the 19th, and I just want to check in and say hello and talk about a few things today. We're under 3 weeks to kick off of this journey, and it's coming up quick, and my free time seems to be getting less and less as I get going forward. But one of the nice things about having this little platform, again, the story is going to be about the folks you meet along the way, but not being along the way yet. People are asking me questions, and on my email address. But one of the things I try to accomplish when I talk to the folks on here is sometimes I try to get a message across, offer an opinion or a thought process that maybe will cause other people to just at least stop and think and process it and go, maybe that makes sense. I didn't think of it that way before, and just offer a different perspective. Sometimes I've been able to be kind of selfish and just say some things on here that I probably should have said to people a long time ago and take advantage of that platform. Sometimes I've said these things in the past, but I still want to recognize some folks. And today's video is going to be kind of both of those things. So the first thing I want to do is I need to recognize a family that was just amazing to my family. So, this journey is about humanity. Just give me a second. I'm sorry, guys. So some of you have heard my videos or read articles on me and seen that my past was a little bit, my childhood was a little bit not quite as normal as maybe some others, and a little bit jaded. But when my dad passed and we lost everything, I'm not even sure what we had. Again, I'm coming at this from a perspective of a 12-year-old that was kind of protected in the dark a little bit. So I don't even know the extent of some of the stuff that was going on because my mom, I guess I'm sure tried to protect me as best she could. My brother, I kind of feel bad for because he was 6 years older than me. So he was at an age where he lived through a lot of what I was protected from. So him and I are very different in a lot of ways, where I tend to be open when my emotions on my sleeve and communicative. He's the old Marlboro man, kind of rough and tumble and keep to himself. He's the guy that could have a leg cut off and be hopping down the highway and someone would offer him a ride and he'd say, no, I'm okay, I'll hop there. But anyway, it was not the best of times in 1979. But imagine, if you could, for a moment, my mom was my hero, and I'll talk about her at length more later. But imagine you lost a son a few years ago. For the most part, and this is not a criticism in any way, she is still a relatively innocent and somewhat naive, and again, I don't mean naive in a bad way, person, just not that worldly. If the speed limit says 35, you go 35. If you come to a full stop, you come to a full stop. That's just the way she is, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, so she lost her son, and then she found out a few years later her husband was gone, and under crazy circumstances. And then she had to figure out how to keep two sons on the right path, and was losing a home, and who knows what was running through her mind at that time. And I don't know what would have come of my mom and us in terms of shelters if this family didn't step in. And unfortunately, I can't recognize the family name entirely. I'll call them the W family. And the reason being is a couple of the members of the family are in professions and positions where their identity would be best left to protect them, to not put it out there. So, but this W family, I never did get a chance to thank Mr. and Mrs. W. But I remember the day my mom gave me the news. We were at their home. I was playing bumper pool downstairs with the kids. The kids were my brother's age and a little bit older than me. And I got to think, I don't know exactly, but it might have only been 2 or 3 days from that news. This family was putting up a dormer basement and paneling to give my mom, myself, and my brother, who would be going off to college eventually, a place to stay and sleep. Mr. and Mrs. W, I don't even think they thought twice about it. They have 5 kids. They have a lot of grandkids. I'm pretty certain they have great grandkids at this point. I never did get a chance to say thank you for what you did for my mom and me, my brother. Damn, this is hard sometimes. So, especially thanks to Mr. and Mrs. W. But also in that line, when I got there, their 2 oldest daughters were a little bit older. Diana had gotten married. I think Kathy was in the process of, and we're out of the house. So while I talked about the Mock family previously, where they were instrumental in my everyday, I wasn't that involved with some of the kids, but they were always so gracious to me and my family. And then there were the younger ones who were a little bit more my brother's age and my age. And Gary was I think my brother's age. John's a year younger, and Beth was, I think, a couple years younger than them, about probably 2 or 3 years older than me. Gary got me my first job working in a pizzeria back in the day. Always been great to me. Yeah, they used to try to throw me in a dumpster, him and another guy. Luckily, I was tall and spindly and can usually keep myself out of the dumpster. But just pranks and good times. But like I said, they never made me feel like an outcast. They never made me feel like anything but an extension of their family. One of my best memories about being there for those couple of years was John was a hell of a basketball player. He was just one of those guys that you can go down to any playground with, and he would just destroy anybody in a playground game just because he's so fundamental and things like that. But he played ball, and I would go to the games and track his stats and things like that. He wasn't D1 level, but man, a good ball player. And I used to really enjoy going to his high school games and watching him and tracking his stats with Mr. and Mrs. W. Always a lot of fun. And then there's Beth, who's a terrific young lady. Again, always nice and always polite with me. I don't know what more I can say about the family, but they reached out and they took people in, and who knows where it would have been. So anyway, thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. I don't know what more I can say than what I just did, but again, thank you sincerely. So the other thing, so that's my selfish part today for me to say some things. The other message I want to get across, though, to some folks and appreciate some folks is this. One of the things that's been neat is, as I've been out and about, I wear my shirt pretty much everywhere I go now. I've got a lot of them, so it's been my new wardrobe, and I'm trying to be my own hype man, I guess. I have little business cards printed up that talks about my Facebook page and the YouTube page. It has my email on there, and I'm telling folks what I'm doing, and I'm asking them to follow me. I've gotten a lot of great feedback, so I do think some of the things I'm saying definitely resonate with some demographic out there, maybe not everybody. But one of the things that I've noticed is, while middle-aged and parents seem to be very receptive, I didn't know how the younger generation, who are really the tech-savvy folks, would be when I approach them. And what I found, much to my surprise, is that they seem to be so, not impressed, but so supportive of what I'm doing. And one of the nicest things I find is, and this is not going to be everybody, but I might go out in just the normal course of a day, and I might pass out 10, 12, 15 cards. And inevitably, not everybody, or everybody says they like to follow and things like that, but inevitably not everybody does, and that's understandable. But what's nice for me is when I go on the site and I see activity and I see people who were folks I just saw that day or the day before. It really means a lot to me. So to those folks that are, just meeting me randomly on the street, that don't know me as a friend from my past or anything like that, and have taken an interest in the site, I want to truly say I appreciate and thank you for doing that. I will ask all of you again. I think a lot of what I have to say sometimes, there are lessons to be learned there, and if you could share them with your friends and family, I think the way this will really grow, from my own experience, is that if I just tell 10 people, about something, or just share it with them, they may or they may not take a peek at it. But if I ask them, if I go out and say, hey, you got to take a look at this. This means a lot to me. Even though they may not know who I am, they know who you are. That's how we'll spread this word around a little bit. So let me move on, because I don't have a lot of time. I tend to talk too damn long here. But one of the things, there's a couple lessons I'd like to share with you for today. And I've used one before, but the two tie into the same thing. People, especially these young kids who aren't yet parents, and those young parents and other parents are out there, know that you're always being watched and mentored, or mentoring, I should say, right? You're an example all the time, and I'm starting to see that more than ever now. And in some ways, I'm embarrassed about it, for how I've seen my kids have seen me react to some things. I'm not an awful guy by any means, and I'm not trying to be perfect, but I wish I could be for them anyway. But the lesson I've got is something I learned from my mom. Now, again, you just heard me talk about my mom and everything she went through, which was an enormous amount. But what I saw her do throughout my young life is if somebody tried to treat her to something, if somebody offered to pay for a lunch, a dinner, a movie, anything, my mom would, I don't know if it was pride, ego, obstinance, I don't know, but she would argue to her death, no, 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 you're not paying for me, no, 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 put it away, no, 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 put it away. And I grew up thinking that was the right thing to do. So in my teens and early business years, that's what I would do. And I got taught a lesson by a gentleman. I was working in an insurance agency. His name was Joe Maximetz. I was probably 21 or 22 years old. And he gave me words that I've shared with my kids and I share with some other people when I try to treat them. So Joe had offered to take me and another gentleman out to lunch one day. And he'd been in the business a long time. In some ways you could say he was a cranky old guy, but he was very, I didn't work with him a long time, but he was very informative to me, and I got to learn a lot from him. And he was funny in his own cranky, curmudgeon way. But the one thing he said to me one day, when he went to take us out to lunch, and I tried to fight him about it, and I just thought that's what you're supposed to do, that you have pride and you don't let somebody lend a hand. He stopped me and he said, Jim, he said, when you fight so hard, it makes it less fun for the person that wants to give to you. You take the pleasure away from them. He said, sometimes just saying thank you means all the world to them. He said, I want to treat you to lunch. I want to do it. I don't want to fight with you about it. And those words hit home for me. And ever since that day, I've come to realize a lot of times if somebody wants to reach out, and I'm typically the one who will pick up a tab or treat to this or that. But, you know, when people reach out now, instead of me being a pig-headed jerk and saying, you know, no, 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 stop, put your $5 away for that lunch or that sandwich or something like that, realizing that just saying thank you, I really appreciate it, means so much more to them, honestly. So as you grow up, guys, as you have kids, that was just a small lesson I learned that meant a lot to me, that I've used over the years. So, and like I said, I learned that behavior by watching my family. And that's the other lesson to be learned here, is that I'm sure my kids have learned some behavior from me, hopefully a lot of good things, all right? And I think my kids are pretty good, and you know, they do things a lot of other kids don't do. They'll walk up and thank people for their service without any prompting. They say please and thank you. My little guy holds doors open for folks, you know. So there are a lot of positives, but there are also, I'm sure, negatives that they've learned from me, and I wish I could change that or take that back, and I'm trying to identify them as I go. So just remember, you're always on stage as a parent, even as a friend. People are always watching you, learning from you, and things like that. And if that just means you to pause for a few seconds before you say or do, then that's what it means. So, guys, thanks very much for listening again. Thanks for supporting me. Thanks for following. Ask friends and family to follow. If you have any questions, again, my phone will go dead if I'm Facebooking all day long. But send me an email. It's pttjourney2018 at gmail.com. I'm on YouTube and Facebook if you search Point the Thumb Journey. And again, point the thumb, not the finger. You know, it means so much to so many people right now. I've heard 10 different interpretations of it, and that's great because they're all positive. So that makes me very happy. Again, thank you very much, Kira, Landon, Grace. Love you guys so much. Have a great day, everybody.